Hi, everybody. Welcome to another exciting episode of One of Us Knows What They're Talking About, and the other one is you, my friends. So, this is where we cover topics specifically to Texas, only because I'm licensed in Texas. So, I can't say that it's other states, but for the most part, it would cover a lot of other states. But where we talk about things that when you have gone to school for years and years and years, and when you have done a job and done CLE and taken tests and all of this stuff, and then you have people who simply will do a Google search and they think that they might know more than you. The answer is no, my friends. So, this is where we are trying to help you understand where a lot of people miss the boat. And the fact of the matter is, when it comes to matters of estate planning, wills, trust, powers of attorney, and probate. Is there anybody, my dear friends, Sara, Sam, and Cyntia, who escape this ultimate reality?
No, everyone dies.
No. Yes. So if we can just get that sad little piece out of the way, it is the reality. And I mean, you know what? It's the circle of life, isn't it? And we're only here on this earth for a certain period of time. Hopefully, it's longer, but for some people, it's short. But the point is, you never know when you're going to check out. And we all want to hopefully mean something. And so, when we talk about these things that some people want to avoid and not want to talk about, it really is something that touches all of us. It is fundamental to our own mortality and humanity. And I personally am the one who started this practice, Burch Law. I've been going at this for a couple decades now. I don't want to say specifically because I did just go to get my hair done today. So I got it colored to hide the gray because I don't, as someone who had kids later in life, I don't want to be called their grandma again.
Again.
So I actually told her today, until Poppy, my almost 2-year old, until she is 18, I will be coming to see her to color my hair because I don't want to be called her grandma. But anyway, so these are all things that touch us. Been doing this a while, seen a lot of changes, a lot of trends, a lot of things. One of the things that I have dealt with the most, and we're actually to be talking a lot about this, not just this episode, because it's too big of a topic to limit to one episode. Uh, but I feel with the advent of both AI and COVID, where people are used to sitting on their booties and using their smartphone or computer to do things and instant gratification, the idea of the DIY forms, the DIY legal services, all of that is something that really, my friends, hear me now, believe me later, will only make probate attorneys more money. It would be great. It sounds great. Um, it's cheap and easy to do, but it will not work. In our experience, we hardly ever see it work. And in fact, we have a couple instances where it's backfired and it's actually made things worse by trying to do things online. And because these DIY forms, legal services, and all of that is such a mess, we can't possibly keep this to one episode. So we were talking about this and we're going to focus on some of the issues that we see bit by bit. And I'm going to start with the most ridiculous one. And the one that you are going to be like, no way, Jose, this is not a thing. And yet, it's actually the leading cause of DIY forms and wills not working. And that is, brace yourselves, everybody. I don't have to brace Sara, Sam, or Cyntia because they know, they feel the pain of this. They don't get signed correctly. And I'm going to ask my esteemed colleagues if a will, trust, power of attorney, whatever the case may be, if it is not signed or witnessed or notarized or whatever in accordance with Texas law, what does that mean?
It's not worth the paper it's printed on.
It's not worth the paper it's printed on. What does that mean?
Means that it's invalid. Yeah, can't use it.
Valid. It won't work.
It won't work.
So why? So let's talk about this. Why do you think? Because of course, none of you, my friends, would of course do this. But why do you think people are like, let me just do this online form or this will kit or whatever? Why do you think they do that?
I believe one of our very intelligent teammates in the past has said because it's cheap. And did she say lazy or easy? I think both. I think both. But just keep going. Lazy. Yeah, that's why.
So I get it. So I had a buddy who was a carpet guy, flooring guy, and he had this expression: cheap gets very expensive. And I cannot think of an instance where this is more accurate. And the fact is that there is no close in estate planning and probate. And so one of the very earliest instances that I had with this was a few years into my practice. I had a woman in my office. She had a brother, and her dad had passed away. He wasn't married. And he had gotten this diagnosis, and he thought, oh my gosh, I should have a will in place. Why do I need to go to some fancy attorney? I can just do this online. All I have is a home, a bank account, and a car. And so when do you find out that something isn't signed properly? When do you find out?
When it's too late.
When it's too late. Thank you. Sara gets it on the board. Boom. Boom. When it's too late. So she's sitting in my office, and I can tell you right now, and I challenge everybody who's listening to this, send it to me, because I can tell you right now, I can look at the first page and I already know whether this was done by a firm, an attorney, or a will kit or a form. So the first thing I always do, and this was in the first couple of years, I already knew to do this, flip to the back, and my heart sank because her dad had signed on one date, because they dated it. You don't have to date it, by the way, but they did. Witness 1 signed on another date, and witness 2 signed on yet a third date. And it was dated. So there's no getting around it. There's no pretending this all happened contemporaneously. What does that mean,
What if we
Sara?
have whiteout? Does that work? Believe it or not, that's something we have been asked. Just putting that out there.
Yes. So let's put a pin in that one, Cyntia, and circle back to it. So contemporaneously, Sara, what does that mean? Are you going to say at the same time?
That's what I'm leaning towards.
Yes. Excellent. Excellent work. I knew, Sara, you would get that. She's our definitions queen. She's like a walking dictionary.
Exactly.
Exactly. I will not ask you to define ancillary later.
I know that.
But so my heart sank, and I looked at her and I said, what is the deal? Your dad signed on one date, and this person signed on a second date, and this other person signed on a third date. She's like, yeah, well, he went online, he filled it out, printed it out. He signed it. Then later a friend came over and signed it. And then another time he took it over to his neighbor and signed it. And because they dated it, there was no getting around it. The witnessing means that they need to witness. What do they need to witness? They need to witness the person, the testator or testatrix, if you care about gender specific terms, but that's become less in vogue. But they have to witness their signature. And so I looked at her and I said, my gosh, like, they dated it, and this isn't a valid will. And she's like, okay, well, can we at least show the judge? And, I'm like, no, because remember, what did I say a few moments ago? Close only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades. I didn't say that, but that is an expression that I picked up somewhere, that close only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades, but not estate planning and probate. And so, no, I was like, no, we're going to have to do what's called a determination of heirship. We're going to have to get your brother to consent to you being the administrator, executor, and so forth to be able to do all of this. Now, I don't expect anybody on this call or on this podcast, except for Sara, Sam, and Cyntia to know what all that means. But I'm going to guess that it doesn't sound quick, easy, or cheap, and it's not. And I'd be willing to bet that if he had known that that is what he was setting his family up for, that he would have been willing to fork out some bucks to a qualified estate planning firm and get this done properly and get it signed properly. I'll never forget this other time where I was at a baby shower in far north Frisco. So for those of you in the DFW area, this is an area, a rapidly developing, growing area that is definitely middle, upper class. So people who have means, and that is relevant to my story. So we went to this baby shower, and I remember they took us on a tour of the home. And I mean, it was beautiful. They took us upstairs, and here's a media room and all of this different stuff. And then we go into this home office, and sitting on there is, I won't say the name of the person, but a will kit. And I remember thinking, you're about to have a baby. You have this beautiful home. You obviously have means, and you think that you can draft complex legal documents. But here's the big thing that I know in my heart, and I know in my experience, that no matter what they've done, no matter how perfectly their plan is laid out, if they've done it, it is not signed. Now, I don't like to equate what we do with, we're just going to make sure you get it signed, witnessed, and notarized properly. But the point of the matter is that if you're going to do this, you want it to work. And part of the working, and again, future episodes, stay tuned. We're going to talk about more of the substantive legal pieces of this. But this is actually one that is the game changer most of the time, is they don't even get signed correctly. And I definitely want Cyntia to chime in, but Sam, on this podcast, our administrative assistant, she oversees our signings. And so because we are so popular, and because Texas is so large and vast, and we're licensed all over Texas, we have the regular honor of being able to do work, estate planning work, wills, trusts, and so forth for people who live in other regions besides the DFW area where we are, meaning that they aren't necessarily feeling a trip to Dallas, so we have to give them remote instructions. Now, one of the many benefits we provide to our clients is we're like, okay, I did this especially during COVID, where they would like FaceTime me, and they would have the people in the room, and I would say, okay, you sign here, you sign there, and I would review it. But what typically happens with our remote signings is they'll arrange, per our instructions, witnesses, notaries, and all of that. And then they scan it and send it to us to review before it's too late, right, Sara?
Exactly.
Before it's too late. So Sam, share some of your experience with doing the remote signings, and they send it back. Yeah. What are some things that you have seen? Do they sign it perfectly and we're like, good job?
I wish.
Clients. What happens?
Maybe about 20% of the time they are actually fully signed correctly.
Are you serious? Or is it only 20% of the time?
Yeah, it's more
low.
Yeah, more often than not.
So what are the most common things that you see that they miss?
Missing initials, I think, is like the most common one. Though it's usually like one or two. We've had clients where they've dated, but they haven't signed, or like the notary hasn't signed, or the notary has signed, but they didn't, and like the notary just didn't notice, or didn't check. We've had a couple where they'll sign on different days. There's one where the will was signed, the first page where the witnesses put like their address and stuff. That was signed on one day, the self-approving affidavit, which proves that, the witnesses are who they are and etc. That was signed on a different day, and then their trust documents were signed on a third different day.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, more often than not, I have to go back and be like, no, please at least initial this and do this and everything like that.
And don't we occasionally have people that will just sign different signatures on different pages?
Yeah. Yeah. I try to tell them in like the pre-email of me sending it to them that no, you have to be consistent. You can't sign your middle name in one and not in the other. And yeah, more often than not, it doesn't end well.
Yeah. And that's per instruction. So look, here's, I had someone who, this was probably last year, where we were doing a seminar and she knew I was going to get to this part about the DIY stuff. And she's like, look, my husband is convinced that the whole signing incorrectly is not a problem. Of course, we can follow instructions. What are the other issues? I'm like, okay, I'll definitely address that. But I've struggled a lot with this because when you look at the forms, I mean, it literally says witness 1, witness 2, and then notary. And as Sam was just talking about, we've seen all sorts of things. I've seen notaries sign in the witness section and stamp it there. We've seen on the second to last page where they do sign, but for some reason, the very last page, they decide not to also sign there, even though it specifically says witness 1, witness 2 signature. I mean, it's very clear to us, the people who do this all the time. And so the only thing that I really can relate this to is something that I would refer to as kind of like the tourist phenomenon. And I think all of you probably have gone on vacation somewhere. And so I hope that you're ready to admit to yourself that when you are out of your comfort zone, you're a complete idiot. You don't know right from left. You don't understand. Like I lived in DC for a while. One of the most miserable experiences was during the summer. And when you would ride the metro and people like didn't have the understanding that with the doors open, that's when you get out. And that's when you move to the
doors are
side to
open.
allow people in. And it's just this whole thing. I actually knew somebody who did marketing for Disney. And she said that I am not joking. The number one question that people ask when they visit Disney, what time is the 2:00 parade? And I'm going to tell you, friends, in my heart of hearts, I do not think the majority of people are complete morons. I definitely don't think our clients are. So there is a phenomenon, and with the psychology degree that I don't have, there is a phenomenon that when you're thrown into a situation that is both overwhelming and outside your comfort zone, you somewhat second guess everything and lose all sort of common sense. Like that is the only thing that I can glom onto that can explain why we see documents not signed correctly. And in Texas, if it's not signed correctly, it doesn't work. It's not valid. There's no close. There's no, the judge can look at it and see what your intent was. There's just nothing we can do. We have to proceed as if there was no legal plan in place at all. So the work that you're doing, if you're thinking that you're doing this in a easier, more efficient, less expensive way, I am telling you emphatically, you are not. Stay tuned for future episodes where we talk more in depth about a lot of the big things that get missed as far as specific language or not state specific language, or when assets like beneficiaries on life insurance or bank accounts are not coordinated. Like all of those are very, very big, important things. But we are telling you the reason why we started with signing of them is because that's the biggest problem we see. The other thing that we see a lot, brace yourselves, is the wrong kind of people sign. What do I mean by that? I mean, people will get their family members to sign. While I'm guessing they're the ones who are around the person who is more than likely about to check out, they can't be related to you and be your witness. There are some exceptions. If you want to really nerd out and talk about this stuff, we can. But for the most part, it needs to be a disinterested person, meaning they're not somebody who is named in your document. They're not someone who is related to you, because if they are, which we see a lot of the time with the DIY stuff, it will cause problems. It will either be invalid, or if they are also a beneficiary under your will, then it can disqualify them from receiving what you wanted them to receive. It's just not a thing. And so that's why the fine people of Burch Law provide the witnesses. None of us are interested in what you have going on. No, I'm kidding. That's not the actual definition of disinterested. But, we're not named. We're not your relatives. We're also going to be easy to find if there's any questions, because have we had to track down witnesses to wills before?
Yes.
Yes. So if the court finds any discrepancies or issues or has questions, what often is a fallback, or if you don't have the original or it's been more than 4 years, what often is a fallback is going to the witnesses or potential notary that signed and notarized the stuff. So when you do it through a formal qualified law firm that has a succession plan, we're going into our 19th year. We can go back. It's like a trail of tears of people who have witnessed for us. But typically it's people who have worked within the firm or associated with the firm, and we can find them.
Actually, recently we've filed a case for probate where Lorie was the notary, and we're probably going to have to use her as a witness for the hearing.
Ooh.
Wow. When was the last time you were in a courtroom?
So question is, so now we're talking about DIY, but obviously, Cyntia, this is something that is not a DIY will, because it's one that we did,
No.
But we can always go off script a little bit. What is the problem there?
With that one, we cannot locate the witnesses.
But why does it even matter?
An issue, right? I feel like that can be an issue, right? Because sometimes when people write their names in, their handwriting isn't the best.
Yeah, you
so
can't
it's harder.
read.
So
no idea. And we always have addresses put in for witnesses, but that's not a requirement.
Yeah, and we've had our case managers before,
I can't remember.
Around the office.
I can't. I mean, I know we've talked about this recently, but obviously it's not a DIY will. It's one that we did, but where something with the court where we're needing to have a witness or notary be able to testify to it, and I can't remember what it is, but it's just
I'm
it's
trying
just
to remember
another
why.
example. Yeah. So stay tuned next time, and we may or may not answer that question, but the point is still there. And here's another thing that I want to talk about is, for some reason, people think being a notary is magic. And as a notary, as someone who has the stamp, I find that somewhat offensive, only because people have valued my notary stamp much more than my law degree. And it was a lot less money and a lot less time to get that notary stamp than it was the law degree. But a will, dun, 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 in Texas does not have to be notarized. And we have seen...
Hold on.
Oh, you remember?
Justin,
all right, I have to go back to
the reason why we have to actually do it, it's because it's after 4 years. They didn't probate within 4 years.
I
was trying to remember what was going on, but it's after 4 years, and they lost the original, so it's a copy.
So it's
multiple problems.
By the way, as a segue, and we'll talk about this in a future episode as well, if you do a revocable living trust in lieu of will, none of these things would be issues. But anyway, I digress. So back to what I was saying, notaries, we have many people who think all that has to happen is for a will to be notarized. And so when I go in and I talk and do presentations, I love doing this thing where it's like, all right, so I've got person A, and they pulled out a blank sheet of paper and they said, this is what I want to happen, and they signed it. And then I've got person B that went online, pulled down a form of a will, filled it out, signed, and notarized. Which one is valid? And the biggest takeaway there when I do this, and I'm too scared to do it with my own staff who's on this call, but but the biggest takeaway is nobody knows the answer. It's just a lot of guesses. The written
You have
one
to
that's
look at
signed
it.
is not
Yeah.
valid, or the one this or this that. But the answer is that the one that is just notarized is not valid in Texas. A notary is not a magic wand. Technically, in Texas, a will only has to be signed by the person creating the will, the testator, and 2 disinterested witnesses that are over 14. It does not have to be notarized at all, unless it's entirely on your own handwriting. It's called a holographic will. It only has to be signed. Now, I'm going to be really super mad at anybody listening to this who's like, hot dog. Not only do I not have to hire a fancy schmancy attorney, I don't even have to go online. I'm just going to fill this stuff out and sign it. No. This is an emergency. I have no other time. I know this amazing estate planning firm, but I've ignored them as much as I am entertained by their podcasts, but I've never done this. This is an emergency. Let me write this out because I don't know if I'm going to survive the next day because I've got a surgery or what have you. This is an emergency type will. I will, though, tell people to do the holographic type of will every day because the other one that is only notarized, not valid at all. Remember, we said has to be witnessed twice. Now, why is there a notary involved? Sam dropped this bomb not too long ago, calling it the self-proving affidavit. So in Texas, what that means is when you have it notarized, it's like pre-taking the testimony because when you pass away, those witnesses are supposed to come to court to say, yeah, I remember when Joe Blow passed away, and I remember he was of sound mind and over 18 and all of that. So by having it notarized, it's pre-taking that testimony so that no witnesses technically have to come to court. Now, this is, of course, as all T's are crossed, I's are dotted, not 4 years after death, not a copy of the will, all of those things. But that we're talking about signing right now. That's the primary objective of this conversation. So those are important things. Any other stories, dear Burch Law, related to the signing of legal documents, not other DIY fails? We're going to get to that because I know Sara and Sam have some examples, but what else?
They did research.
We did.
For whenever people do holographic wills, they're just like, great, I did it, I signed it, good to go. Well, in order for that to go through court, we do have to have people come in to witness that that is your handwriting. So witnesses never really go away in the process. How many people have people that are disinterested in their estate that actually know what their handwriting looks like? Like, I have some here at the office, but like other than that, so that's also another piece of like, hey, don't just think holographic will, let's do it. It's like, no. It's no.
Yeah, I've actually had people before where like, I don't know what their signature. I mean, do you think about this? Are you really familiar with what your friends or family's signatures are? I don't know. I mean, maybe I can pull up a birthday card or something, but we're not handwriting experts or anything like that. So I've had people who are like, well, I don't think this was her signature. And other people are like, yeah, that's definitely their signature. And it's like, what are we supposed to do now?
The only signatures I'm very familiar with are yours. And other than that, my parents. Because whenever you're in school, they have to sign things like, permission slips, report cards, things like that. I'm very familiar with those signatures.
You can duplicate them, is what you're saying.
My mother taught me how to duplicate hers from her first marriage.
Nice.
My father, because she got tired of signing things.
Valid, honestly.
Could you duplicate my signature? Could you duplicate my signature?
Could I? Probably.
I think I could get close.
Have I? No, I have no interest.
Yeah, I think I could do it.
I think Sara's I could get pretty close with because she's the one who witnesses the most for me.
Yeah, I don't think y'all can do my signature.
I would recognize it. I think
you could recognize mine.
Do it, but I think it would be in my cursive, not your cursive.
Yeah.
No problem.
We're going to do a test and we're going to see how well you all can replicate my signature. And then I'm going to be very disturbed.
Okay.
I'm not sure how I feel about any of that. But
I love a challenge.
I think Morgan's would be the hardest.
Is that just squiggles?
Yeah, but she has a very specific way she squiggles.
Well, no, I mean that's what I mean. Like she's the squiggle one.
This is very interesting.
Jordan's is very nice.
The Secretary of the Treasury under Obama, something like he had to change his signature because it goes on our money, and they didn't like his signature. It was just like loop-de-loops, and he had to actually, somebody Google this, had to change his signature for our money that was printed during those 8 years, something like that. Just search up Secretary of the Treasury Obama administration or signature or something like that, because there is some issue with it. Did you find something? Can't have dead air.
Signature.
While Cyntia is trying to look at this, Sam, is there anything else that you can think of when it comes to signing the documents that we see just miserably fail?
No, I think that's real. I feel like initials and
sorry, I found it. It's really good.
Yeah. Okay. So they'll sign different names. They won't sign in the right spots. They won't get. I feel like we had one recently where on the will itself they signed the one page where it was the client signature and then 2 witnesses, but then like the last page, none of it, like just they signed, or we were missing something for some reason, or the witnesses didn't sign, right, but it was notarized. Yeah.
Is this that probate that happened not too long ago?
No, this was just one where somebody signed the paperwork.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
in office. Okay. Listen, we have a lot of weirdness. Okay, but I found the signature for Jacob J. Liu.
Okay, tell us the story as my 5-year-old enters.
So essentially, I posted a picture for us in the chat of his signature, which is just somebody doing like little loops, like consecutive loops of different sizes. And so
I told you,
super loopy.
yeah, it's just loops. And so what they ended up doing is telling him, hey, you do have to actually sign your name out. So, because it goes on the monies. So they actually did. And it's like, oh, you have a good signature.
I don't blame them. I don't
blame
not
them
nice
for this
loops.
one. They're like, yeah.
I feel like the way he would have to do it just seems very uncomfortable for your wrist.
No, I could do that.
Like the natural way would be to do it like counterclockwise, but I feel like he would have to, like the way they're looping.
Am I one of the few people that
way.
growing up, like you would practice your autograph? It's not a signature; it's an autograph. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
And I just don't know why anybody would do it this way. You did not do that?
No, I did not. I think that's a you thing.
I would do it. Sarah, did you ever do it? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What
100%.
about?
Did you call it your autograph?
Oh,
well,
no.
Okay. Anybody practice accepting an Academy Award or Grammy?
No.
Or Sarah American
Grammy,
Music Award or MTV Music Award, Sarah?
Okay.
And having someone take it from you and say that it should have gone to Beyonce.
We're unlocking some Sara lore. Sarah, go on.
I had dreams about interviews and awards. Yep.
Like that you would get interviewed or you would be the one interviewing?
Yeah. Like music awards. Yeah.
Yeah. That tracks.
See, this is why whenever you interviewed, I was like,
were you like an artist? Were you a musician? Were you a producer? Were you a writer? What were you?
All of the above. And I was just like, yes, so thank you for this award. Yes.
She's a jack of all trades.
But not Jack.
Not Jack.
You're Taylor, not Jack or Aaron. Yeah.
I'd put Aaron above Jack.
Yeah, I would want to be Aaron.
Yes.
So Sarah, let's hear it. What is your acceptance speech? You just won a Grammy.
And the Grammy goes to Sarah Gibson.
Sarah Gibson.
Woo! Woo!
Thank you all. I did not expect this. Peace out. Oh, I should probably thank my parents. Like, thank you. Who else do you have to thank?
Your publicist.
Your publicist.
Listen, for those of you that are not watching this, she did do the rock and roll symbol with both hands up in the air.
Yeah, that's twice.
Yeah, I think I would do that.
Yeah. That's what you would do. And then whenever I feel like what would happen is whenever you remember you have to thank your parents, you would do your stance that you put your hands, the back of your hands on your hips, and you put your leg out like Well, I guess I have to thank them.
Do we think she
Yeah.
would drop the Grammy?
100%
I think I would trip.
fumble it. She
Yeah.
would 100%
Yeah, I would
fumble
trip.
it.
Fumble it, but not drop it.
Yeah.
So, as the only one who's actually accepted awards on stage,
I've accepted an
Damn.
award.
So have I. I mean, it was a school
On sta-
award. It was on a stage.
I've
Multiple
gotten-
fair enough.
In
Fair
front
enough.
of
Witnessy
I
people.
awards.
was a teacher's pet.
What, Sarah?
enough.
What was that?
I've gotten Witnessy awards.
I have
That's
a
true.
question.
She gets one
I
each
mean,
month
isn't
usually.
getting a degree like an award? Because like you
Yeah, you
go
go
on
on stage.
stage, they say your name, they hand you a thing, like, "Hey,
But
pay
you
a lot
don't
of
get
money
to
for
do a
this."
speech.
Woo!
You don't
No,
get to
but
do a
your parents
speech.
make you later. So
Yeah.
Well, gosh, I think this was like 2005 or something. I won the award from the North Texas LGBT Chamber as Business Person of the Year. And I took my mom and my stepdad to the awards ceremony. I had no idea that they were going to call you on stage and you were going to get to say a few words.
let's wing
And
it.
so I was caught very off guard by this. And so one of my favorite parts was that, I went up, it was very brief, did my thank yous, and then just instinctively said, and finally, I'd like to thank the man upstairs, Elvis, for without whom none of this would be possible.
That tracks
Yeah,
for
that's
you.
the
I mean,
most
that's
you
yeah,
I've ever
that's on
heard.
brand.
Yeah, I think I've heard you say that before as well.
Yes, I have.
Yeah, and I've carried that on because I was so amused by myself that came up in the moment. It's like that's my go-to. And finally, I'd like to thank the man upstairs, Elvis Presley, without whom none of this would be possible, which is true. None of this would be possible, really, without him. So again, that's the signing. So I do have a question for any of you, but specifically Sarah and Sam, because they like to kind of bring us home with the podcast.
Yeah.
We are going to do a lot more about DIY disasters, DIY fails. We've talked mainly about when it comes to estate planning documents, how just the signing of them crash and burn. But Sarah and Sam, do either of you have examples of other DIY fails?
Of course
So
we
many.
do. You want to go first?
Well, save some for future episodes, but what are a couple right now?
I feel like this was us just really scratching the surface. I feel like we could do this for a long time. You let us. Want to go?
Okay, yeah, I'll go.
Anytime.
So I'm
Wait, who's
gonna
gonna
start
go
off
again? Oh, okay, Sarah's going.
Yeah, Sarah,
okay.
Sarah, yeah.
Yes. I'm going to start off with the era of when people fixed things with dried ramen.
I feel like this was around COVID, right? Like that
Yeah,
era.
it was pretty big. It honestly turned out pretty well. Like you
I know
couldn't
it
tell,
actually works. Like it's a
but
fail
just
in
the fact
terms
that
of
you're like, why would you use food? But yeah,
I
dried
feel
ramen
like it
apparently.
works though.
Wait a minute. It's dry. What are you talking about? Dry ramen? Like
Yeah.
The noodle
elaborate.
packets.
Yeah,
The noodle
I get
packets.
that, Sarah. Thank you. Like just eating it?
No. So like say you have a crack in your table. Like you have a wooden table and there's a hole in it. They would take a little bit of ramen, squeeze it into the crack in the table, sand it down, and then kind of, stain over it, and it would look like a brand new table.
Like just the squiggly ramen?
Yeah.
Like they didn't grind it up or anything?
No.
Why
Yeah.
ramen? There's literal putty for this kind
Exactly.
of stuff.
Exactly. So that was an era online for a hot minute.
Yeah, it was.
Okay.
But y'all
It was
said
really
that it looked
fascinating.
good.
Like
Wait, you
like
said you did it.
I didn't do
I didn't do it.
No.
All right,
Next
Sam.
one.
Y'all know what DIY fails are?
Oh, well, I mean, it's not fail in the terms like that it failed, but just like why would you do that?
But didn't it?
Yeah, like
It's like,
So now
why
you're
would you
DIY.
use food?
why? Okay. Another one. I feel like there's a lot out there, and we don't obviously are going to do pictures. But there's a lot of dog grooming fails out there. Like when they like shave just the body, or
A summer cut? That's a summer cut.
yeah, summer cut, I guess. But what, like leaving their head all fluffy? It's just really the poor things.
Shave
like
the
their
body,
feet
but
are-
leave the
Yeah,
head all
was it
fluffy.
lion's mane?
Well, it's for cats, but like for dogs,
I mean, is that
they'll do summer cuts.
what the person asked for though, or is that someone who just didn't know what they were doing?
I feel like it's usually like, from what I've seen, it's they go in for like grooming or trim, and the person just doesn't know what they're doing, or it's the first time they've done that specific animal and it just doesn't go well.
See, what I would have put here for the dog grooming is whenever people try to dye the dogs weird colors.
Oh yeah,
When they try to do
especially like
patterns.
dog shows.
I feel like that's a DIY fail.
Yeah,
Yeah.
those dog show ones are pretty bad.
I feel like it happens a lot with doodles, the bad cuts.
Yeah, or like one dog breeds that have like double coats and stuff, and they just don't know how to.
Yeah, don't
Do it
shave
well.
those.
So
No, don't do
Chandler
that.
Bing, my dog, who
Yeah.
is a French bulldog, he doesn't have to be groomed as far as like trimmed and everything.
Yeah, no,
Sarah
he's
doesn't
pretty
grow.
low maintenance.
Same with
I mean,
tag print.
I would not say that.
He's not okay. Fine, his coat is low maintenance. I do realize that his eyes look in totally different directions. I never know what he's looking at.
No,
That is a big
he still
feature
has
of your
to
dog.
be bathed. He's a drooler. He stinks. All of that.
Oh.
He just doesn't have to get haircuts.
My
Yeah,
mom's
no, Tag
cat
is
a
really low
drooler.
maintenance. We just brush him and he's
Yeah.
done. He doesn't drool.
His fur is pretty thin, right?
Yeah.
I think
Okay.
Kona has to be groomed, right?
Yeah,
Oh,
sure.
yeah.
She has a double
Kona,
coat
She's
dog.
Kona being
Ruler,
Sarah's
all of the above.
dog.
Yeah.
You need to introduce who these people are.
Oh,
People, they're dogs.
They are
family
people.
members.
I mean, they're
Fair.
family members, but they're like, yes, this is one of my children.
So who's Kona?
Kona is my dog. She's a German Shepherd Golden Retriever mix. So she's a hot mess.
She's doing her best.
Yeah.
Is it her best or is it Sarah's best?
Ooh.
Probably my best.
And she just had a
Ooh.
birthday. That's exciting.
Yeah.
How old
did.
is she?
She's 7 now.
Did you throw a party?
I did.
There's a picture with a bandana and
Oh,
It
everything.
is. It's very cute.
Tell me of what this party looked like. I'm very intrigued by people who throw parties for animals.
Well, to be fair, I wanted her to feel special because, she's
She's
a
good girl.
exactly.
best
So
life,
she
you know?
she had a little bandana that said "It's my bark day." She had a little party hat, and she got a bunch of homemade treats that were peanut butter flavored.
I'm shocked she let y'all get that hat on her and like stood still for a picture.
So
Yeah.
she did look terrified. In
She
that
did look terrified.
Polaroid.
Also, people, Sarah's only had this dog for maybe like what?
Almost
a little over a year?
No, yeah, almost a year.
Okay. Do we have any other examples of DIY fails before we part from our fan base?
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to do the landlord special, which is where landlords paint everything in the apartment white, including dirt and bugs, and then they charge you $2,000 for it. I would consider that one a fail because that's just gross.
They charge you $2,000 for what? It's been a long time since I've lived in an apartment.
Like a month
it'll
for
be,
rent.
yeah, like for rent, and it's
Oh.
it's quote unquote newly renovated, but all they did was paint over some dirt and bugs.
Yeah, and it's like
Okay.
under what, 1,200 square feet, maybe 800
Yeah, if you're lucky.
if you're lucky.
Okay. You hear that,
Gross.
landlords? They're coming for you.
Stop it.
Yeah.
All right. Sam, do you have another one to close us out?
I do. Which one? The jouches. Okay. So
Oh, no. Oh,
This
no.
This is an actual fail. Ew.
this is one that Sara suggested. And then I kind of added on to it a little bit. But jouches and other fun furniture items. So jouches.
People. I am a married 40-year-old homeowner with kids. I don't know what you're talking
I was
about.
getting there.
We're getting there.
That
We're
was just
getting
my
there.
title. I had to get the title
Jouches.
out first.
I did ask them, like, what the heck is a
Yeah,
jouch?
yeah,
I did go
it's
to them and I'm
here.
like, please tell me what
But
this is.
it's jean pouches. So it's usually I feel like it's on the front. It's usually the back part of the jean. And it's just like
The pockets?
stitched. Yeah, the pockets.
Yeah.
It's like stitched as a pouch cover. We also have jeers, which could be jean steers or
I get
jean
it.
cheers.
Get it?
And then Jillos is
That was my
jean
favorite.
Jillos.
Jellos are my favorite of all of
Like,
this.
that's just really scratching the surface. I feel like you could probably find some like dressers, some jessers if you want to.
Jessers.
But
I looked up dresses, not
it's
dressers.
so funny. Like, it's just such a funny trend that I kind of wish would come back just so I could laugh at these.
Well, it's coming back.
Okay.
Yeah.
So next episode, when we do talk about DIY fails when it comes to legal documents, I'm going to have much better examples of outside the legal world that Sam and Sara will come up with, because these were pathetic.
Aw.
I
They
may
were
have warned
good.
them about that.
I mean, I don't
Listen, the
even know
jouches
that these are
were-
fails.
The jouch is the best
because
one.
You seem pretty proud of all of these.
We are.
Well, they found them. They didn't do them. But I
Yeah.
feel that the Jillos? Yeah, the Jillos, the Jers, and the Jouches. That is
The name
why.
is great.
Why would you
You
do
need
that?
to
Like,
do-
It's fun
well,
to take a
hold on.
laugh.
Okay, hold on. I do feel like it'd be nice if you do have like a massive, like oversized pillow that's a Jillo, if you will, for your couch. And it has a pocket so you can put your remotes in it, or you can put like, you know, like your snacks.
What would a jean-covered beanbag be called?
Jean Jag. Your pod could be the jaw.
my pod could be the jaw. So
Yeah,
you
the
want to
jaw.
do a jean-covered pod?
Yes.
Yeah, that could be your birthday gift this year.
Like the back panel behind you, is that kind of a fabricated
My-
material? We could definitely go to the thrift
Birthday
store.
is
Hey, guys.
my birthday is several months away, and my
It is in
greatest
November.
hope is that
Yeah, we have
we've got
time.
time to collect the jeans.
We have
and sew
time.
them together.
We can go to the thrift store.
Yeah.
Sarah, I know what we're doing for a few weekends this year.
what would
Nice.
a jean-covered will be?
A Jill.
A chill.
What would a jean-covered trust be?
No, hold on. The will would be a last will and jeanstament.
A drust. Just? I don't really know how to drust.
What about a power of attorney?
Jower.
Jower.
She did not hesitate on that one. She just got it out.
All right, I think we, what is this, episode 5, and we've already jumped the shark. It took Happy Days like several seasons before they completely lost all credibility. But just like everything else, us at Burch Law, we accelerate it, we get it there more efficiently and quickly than anybody else. All right, so thank you everybody for tuning in. We've talked about DIY disasters, DIY fails. This is going to be a recurring theme. We will probably have 5 million more episodes at least about this, but today specifically was about the silliest one, but the most common one, and that is the signing fails when it comes to these forms and online kits. So join us next time for another thrilling episode of One of Us Knows What They Are Talking About, and the other one is you.